What is going on, everyone? We are back in our Bears franchise in Madden 17, and we have reached the end of season number 1. But before we can officially put a pin in this season, we've got to take a look back, taking a look at the stats from this year, the award winners, Pro Bowlers, our own award announcements, and then finally we will end it by going through simulating the playoffs to find out who wins the Super Bowl. So first up, season stats here. In the passing game was pretty much a one-man show. Cutler, 19 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 3,500 yards. It was not a great season for Jay Cutler. Very up and down, and QB will definitely be a position we look at when we get into the offseason. Running game, Jeremy Langford had a sneaky good year. 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, fumbled just one time. Jordan Howard, 46 carries for 195 yards and 4 TDs. Wanted to give him a lot more work than he ended up getting. That's something we'll focus on next year. Kadeem Carey was passed by Howard early on in the season, so he never really got much going, only 5 carries for the season. Receiving, Alshon Jeffrey, 1,000 yards, just makes it over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. Kevin White, 600. He probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver as well, but he missed 6 games this year, only played in 10. Marquise Wilson had a good season in place for Kevin White, 532 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's going to be Zach Miller with 406. He missed 3 games as well, and then Jeremy Langford, 343 and 2 touchdowns, so he ends up with almost 1,500 yards of total offense. Then you have some of the other guys here. Braverman, 19 catches until he got injured later on in the season. On defense now, Danny Trevathan leads the way with 125 tackles. Jones Cordy with 107. Amos with 86. So the safeties featuring there in the tackles. Freeman gets 81. Porter, a corner, with 75. Tackles for loss, it is again Danny Trevathan leading the way with 27. Freeman and McPhee with 15. Hicks with 9. Amos and Bullard with 8, and then it's going to be actually Floyd, the rookie, going to grab 7, and then Fuller, Houston, Unrein with 6. Sacks, it is going to be 10 for the rookie, Leonard Floyd, and I said he had a really, really good second half of the season last episode, and you see here how good of a second half he had. He ends up leading the team in sacks. Pernell McPhee kind of fell apart in the second half of the season. I think he had something like 7 sacks through the first 9 or 10 weeks, but the rookie will end up leading us in sacks. Interceptions, Tony Lippett and Kyle Fuller tied with 4. Now, really, we know Lippett has 5. The game screwed him out of 1, so he led the way with 5. I'm just going to pretend like he had 5. Robbie Gould, an okay season, 21 of 26, but he missed 3 extra points. That was more of my own probably wrongdoing because I'm still not very good at the whole kicking mechanic they have this year. No return touchdowns this year. Daniel Braverman, I had some high hopes for him. He returned a kick in the preseason, but he never really worked out real well in the return game, so we're going to be looking for a returner in the offseason. But now looking at the NFL stats here, Ben Roethlisberger, the only guy over 5,000 yards. He had himself quite a year, 37 touchdowns as well. But we have a few guys over 4,500 yards. Touchdowns, it's going to go to Tom Brady with 38. He edges Roethlisberger by 1, and he also only had 8 interceptions. And then Phillip Rivers is going to tie actually with Ben Roethlisberger with 37 touchdowns. The leader for interceptions is going to be Blake Bortles with 26. So 26 touchdowns, but 26 interceptions. Tannehill with 20. Winston with 19. So we didn't do too bad with Jay Cutler, but still look at Aaron Rodgers, 17 and 34, but still Cutler not a good year. Running game, it's Adrian Peterson just about to 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns to go along with that, and we will see Jeremy Langford down this list a little ways with the 1,100 yards that he had. Brandon Oliver leads the way with touchdowns, 17 for him. Eddie Lacy with 15, and then Peterson, Powell, and McKinnon with 12. Look at all the touchdowns that the Vikings running backs had. That's 24 between McKinnon and Peterson. And then fumbles, Jay Cutler. Yeah, we had some fumble issues. 14. Adrian Peterson had 8, though. That seems like a crazy high number for Adrian Peterson. And then receiving, and look at the Steeler guys here. Brown and Bryant, the only 2 guys over 100 receptions. Antonio Brown, 1,700, almost 1,800 yards receiving. Julio Jones with 1,400. Keenan Allen with 13. And then touchdowns, it's going to be Brandon Cooks getting 15. Antonio Brown right behind him with 14. And Keenan Allen tied with him at 14 as well. Moving on to defense, it's Paul Posluszny leading the way with 154 tackles. So Trevathan close, but not quite. But he is going to lead the league in tackles for loss, 27. He's going to beat out J.J. Watt and Muhammad Wilkerson. That is impressive for Trevathan. He was in the backfield a lot this year, but it is going to be J.J. Watt leading the way for sacks, 22 for him, 21 for Robert Quinn, and 20 for the rookie, Jihad Ward. What an unbelievable season for this former Fighting Illini, as that's a high number of sacks for a rookie. That's pretty crazy. Interceptions is going to go to a middle linebacker, Wesley Woodyard with 7, Adam Jones, the old-timer, with 6, and Aqib Talib with 6 as well. Another linebacker there, David Harris, had 5. MVP this season is going to be Tom Brady. He wins yet another MVP. Not surprising. The Patriots won 15 games in a row. Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger following him. Russell Wilson's going to be your Offensive Player of the Year in the NFC. He beats out Breeze and Ryan. Defensive Player of the Year is going to be Cameron Jordan, who beats out Robert Quinn for that award. Offensive Rookie of the Year is going to go to Ezekiel Elliott. That's not a real big surprise. Jared Goff and Sterling Shepard going to follow him, and there is Jordan Howard down there in 9th. Thought maybe at one time he had a shot at that one, but ultimately he doesn't get as much playing time as he maybe should have. Vernon Hargreaves is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I thought we really had a shot with Leonard Floyd, but he actually only ends up getting 4th in this one, which I thought was a bit odd considering he did have 10 sacks. But either way, Drew Brees is your best QB. Jay Cutler, I don't think he even shows up on this list anymore. At one point he did. Eddie Lacy will beat out Jeremy Langford, probably our best shot at winning the positional award, but he is going to finish second on that one. Brandon Cooks wins best wide receiver, and there is Alshon Jeffrey in 4th, as Julio Jones and Dez Bryant finish ahead of him. Best lineman is going to go to a Cowboy. No surprise here. Tyron Smith is going to win that award. Best defensive lineman goes to Robert Quinn. Again, actually a little bit surprising considering Cameron Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year. Clay Matthews wins Best Linebacker. Best DB is going to go to Richard Sherman. And then Best Kicker, which I think is the only other position where we see a Bears player, that is going to go to Mason Crosby, as Robbie Gould is going to finish 4th in that award. Now, I do want to quickly show you the AFC awards, so we're going to go through these fast. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be your Offensive Player of the Year, beating out Tom Brady. Corey Leggett is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Paxton Lynch wins Offensive Rookie. Jihad Ward wins Defensive Rookie. That's no surprise. Tom Brady is going to take Best QB. Best Running Back will go to Brandon Oliver with his 17 touchdowns. Best Wide Receiver, no surprise, Antonio Brown. Marshall Yanda wins Best Lineman. J.J. Watt wins Best Defensive Lineman, beating out the rookie Jihad Ward. Best linebacker goes to Justin Houston. Aqib Talib wins Best DB. And Justin Tucker wins Best Kicker. So there are your awards. Now it's time to announce our awards. Every season we go through looking at our team and we pick out our own MVP, Offensive Player, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie, Most Improved. I think that's all of them. Now we do hand out a weekly MVP and we use that to help tally who our team MVP is going to be, but we're going to finish with the MVP. First up is going to be Rookie of the Year, and this one I think is one of the easier awards to hand out, and that's going to go to Leonard Floyd. Jordan Howard had us saying this at one point, but he kind of fell off, and then Whitehair was the only other guy at left guard that ever really played for a rookie. Leonard Floyd had 69 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks, and this was a guy that at the beginning of this franchise was not even going to play this year. He was slotted behind Willie Young, but I traded Willie Young in part because I thought that this kid could be really good, and it turns out he was, and he is going to be our Rookie of the Year. Next award, and this was one that actually relates to the Willie Young trade, I wanted to hand out, I normally don't hand out a Most Improved player until the second season, but I wanted to do it this year just based on from beginning to end kind of perception of how the players have grown, and Tony Lippett to me was a humongous pickup for us. We traded Willie Young to the Dolphins to get Tony Lippett, and it was just kind of a corner that I kind of just threw out there, just thinking maybe he could be good, and boy did he turn out to be very good. He had 4 interceptions, 73 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and a half sack. And I mean, really, he was probably our best corner for the second half of the season. Kyle Fuller kind of disappeared there for a little bit, but Tony Lippett was there playing very consistent. Not the best corner, but definitely helped us shore out that position. Next up, it is going to be the award for Offensive Player of the Year. And this one was a hard pick, but ultimately, I'm going to give it to Jeremy Langford. Now, the other alternative here was Alshon Jeffrey, but I'm going to give it to Langford because of this. He had 1,100 yards on the ground, 11 touchdowns, just 1 fumble. But you add on that to go along with his receiving stats, and he is going to end up with 13 total touchdowns and almost 1,500 total yards. Nobody can match that on our team, so I thought I would give Jeremy Langford his due credit. He was not the best running back. We had some weak spots there during the season, but ultimately he was one of those steady rocks that we could count on game in and game out. Now we move on to Defensive Player of the Year, and this was another difficult decision, but ultimately kind of an easy one. And we are going to give Defensive Player of the Year to Danny Trevathan. Led the team in tackles, 125. Led the team and led the league in tackles for loss with 27. I would have liked maybe some more sacks. He only had 5.5. Didn't have any interceptions, but he was the guy on defense that was that rock for us, that game in and game out. He was out there making tackles, making plays to help try and shore up the defense. The defense is a very big weak spot for us, but Danny Trevathan is not a weak spot, and he's going to be defensive MVP. Now it's on to the team MVP, and this is where we got to take a look at the weekly MVP awards, and this is how split this team was. No one really stood out this year. 3 guys with 3, Jeremy Langford, Alshon Jeffrey, and Leonard Floyd, but then we have 7 other names that won it at least one time. So 10 total guys in 16 weeks were named MVP at different different points. So obviously this decision is a hard one, but in trying to decide who was most valuable to our team, I think there was one name that really stood out, and that name is going to be Alshon Jeffery. Now, he didn't have the best season for his own personal stats. 69 catches, 1,039 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's not a career high for any of those categories, but he was a guy that was there every game. We lost Kevin White for part of the season. Yes, Marquise Wilson did step up, but without Alshon Jeffery, no way do we win 7 games this season. Alshon Jeffery was huge, made Jay Cutler, made any QB that we would have had back there better, and that is why, for me, he is our MVP for season number 1. Now, if you disagree with any of the awards I've handed out, let me know down below who you think should have won the awards, but now it is time to find out how the playoffs play out. We're done with looking back at season number 1. Let's finish this thing off and get to the offseason. So here's a reminder of the wildcard matchups, and now we're going to find out who is going to win and who is going to be headed to the divisional round. And it's going to be the Ravens over the Steelers, 31-21. The Saints all over the Vikings. Not really surprising. They did not look good last week, 35-7. It's the Texans edging out the Raiders, 17-16. And the Cowboys beating the Panthers, 13-6. So your matchups for the divisional round are going to be Texans at Patriots, Cowboys at Packers. That will be a good game. Ravens at Chargers and Saints at Seahawks. So now let's find out who is going to be the winners here heading to the championship games. And it's going to be the Patriots edging the Texans 27-20. The Packers beating the Cowboys 28-14. The Ravens beating the Chargers, upset there 28-21. And then the Saints over the Seahawks 42-28. A little bit of an upset there as well. So your conference championships are Ravens and Patriots, Saints at Packers. And let's see now who is going to be headed to the Super Bowl. I have my guesses, and yeah, they were going to be right. The Patriots all over the Ravens 42-10, and the Packers beating the Saints 34-28. So a familiar matchup here. Patriots and Packers, two teams very familiar with the Super Bowl. So we'll find out who's going to win that. But first, we got to take a look at the Pro Bowl, and I will tell you right now, you're not going to see any Bears on this list. No surprise. Again, I thought maybe Alshon Jeffery would get it, or maybe Jeremy Langford, but you see Peterson and Martin will get the running back spots along with Eddie Lacy. Julio Jones, Brandon Cooks, Devontae Adams I thought was a surprise to be included there, as well as Doug Baldwin. Thought Alshon Jeffery could have made it over them. And then besides that, no one on our line is going to make it, as that's going to be filled with some very good players. Defensive line, maybe Leonard Floyd. Actually, he's a linebacker, but I don't think the rookie was good enough. And then Danny Trevathan, probably our best chance on defense, but he is not going to be selected. And then our only other shot was at kicker, but Robbie Gould was not going to be picked. So season number 1, no Pro Bowlers for us. Unfortunate, but better luck next time. We'll see. Hopefully we can get somebody on this list next year, but those are going to be your Pro Bowl players. And now we move on. It's time to find out now who is going to be Super Bowl champion as the final thing for season number 1. And it's going to be the Patriots, 35-7, not even a competitive game. And Tom Brady will win yet another Super Bowl. And how about that, as the Patriots win another Super Bowl? Look at this. Tom Brady is retiring, and that is something we'll look at retirements in the next episode. But first, before we end this one, let's take a look at the players we need to re-sign. And what's fortunate here is there's no big names that we need to re-sign. I re-signed Alshon Jeffery and Kyle Long at the beginning of the season, so this is what we're faced with. And if we lost any of these guys, I wouldn't be super upset. We have a good amount of cap. I think we have something like $27 million, or maybe more than that in cap room. So we have some money to spend, but I don't want to waste it. So there's some guys we won't be bringing back. Deontay Thompson, David Fales, a couple guys that we probably aren't going to re-sign. And then we're going to have to make some decisions in terms of depth as far as what guys maybe we have to pick, where we only bring one back and not the other. So there are some big decisions that we'll be making right away in the next episode. And this episode is going to be a big one because we will do re-sign players first, and then we will move on and do free agency as well. Also taking a look at scouting some of the players that kind of involves what we're going to be doing, and we might even be making some cuts for some players, some older players that I think we might need to shed some extra weight, and then possibly a trade. We may even address the quarterback position right away in the next episode as well, so make sure you do not miss that one. This offseason, the team could change and probably will change quite drastically, so it's going to be fun. I'm excited to get through this. This has been an odd season, to say the least. I think we overachieved getting 7 wins, but I think we have the opportunity here to really improve this team and make some great strides heading into season number 2. So, offseason begins in earnest next time. Make sure you do not miss it. That's it for this one, though. If you enjoyed it, please go and give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. And subscribe to see any future videos that I make. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.